Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025.
Wow. Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada.
That was our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, followed by an AI impersonation of Donald Trump reading out Trump's reaction tweet after he was told that Canada had made that announcement that it is this country's intention to proceed to recognition of Palestinian statehood. Good afternoon, James Mennie.
Hey, Trudy. How you doing?
I'm okay, and I can guess what you're going to weigh in on right now, of course.
Well, listen, I'm getting a little dizzy because we have to be fair to our listeners, because now Donald Trump, just before the news went on, decided to change his mind. Well, no, it's not. I'm not crazy about their announcement, but it's not a deal breaker. And perhaps someone explains to President Trump pretty much the same way as I quizzed out, at least watching Prime Minister Carney yesterday make this announcement. This has been what an absolutely abject symbolic gesture. Yes, of course, we intend to recognize Palestinian statehood, but of course they have to adopt a completely democratic system, get rid of Hamas, and prove to us that they're worthy of being recognized. And of course they have to do all this by September, because no, it's not going to happen. And what's more is Mark Carney knows it's not going to happen. I would love to know who it was who advised Mark Carney, who describes himself as a pragmatist, to turn around and basically let himself be walloped by both sides in this dispute in the Middle East simply by taking a side. And I cannot help, Trudy, but get the feeling that somebody in his entourage, and I got to tell you, the first thing that went through my mind when he announced this idea for Palestine was, is Justin Trudeau still advising this government? Because this is a kind of, Star Wars sock foreign policy that, you know what? If they do all these things which are virtually impossible, which haven't been happening for more than 7 decades, we're going to recognize Palestine. And I couldn't get but help the feeling, Trudy, that, to a certain extent, Canada, and I just hesitate to blame Carney for this, but I think in his entourage, someone said, no, we have to join the cool kids in England and France and say we're going to recognize, Palestine as a state, even though the chaos, and it's not a matter of recognizing or not. The idea is, in this particular chaotic and quite frankly obscene situation that exists in the Middle East right now on both sides, to turn around and say, we're going to do the A, B, and C, we're going to do it by September, dream on. And the other thing is, as horrifying and as heartbreaking as what's happening in the Middle East right now would be for anybody on earth, as I said yesterday, even before this announcement was made, Trudy, I still feel, and it doesn't make them indifferent, but I think most Canadians are infinitely more concerned about what's happening with Trump and our economy than they are the Middle East. So for Mark Carney to turn around and take this very importantly timed update to really dominate it with a foreign policy announcement, which is so conditional it may as well not exist, I found, to say the least, a bit confusing. Now, that said, and as we just heard during the newscast, Canada is already in a good position. A lot of its goods that it trades with the U.S. are covered by whatever we want to call the latest agreement, trade agreement we have with the U.S. Kuzma. Yeah. Kuzma. It sounds like something you order in an Italian restaurant. Can I have a side of Kuzma with that, please? But the thing is, Trudy, the major issues here are for us aluminum and steel. We'll see what happens there. And it's clear, and as I pointed out, and anyone who's followed the story at all knows, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump says, because his opinion will change every 45 minutes. It's impossible to deal with the guy, literally. So, we'll see what happens. But what I find unusual, what has left me scratching my head, and I cannot for the life of me understand, I'm not saying don't play a role, don't be not concerned by what's happening in Gaza, but to turn around and to make an announcement, which quite frankly, even if they follow through, it's not going to change a whole hell of a lot. If Canada, the world opinion is changing. Well, maybe it is, but it doesn't change what's happening right now. And if we do, what have we committed ourselves to doing? Not much detail on that either. But, I mean, we'll see. I'm not holding my breath waiting for that announcement in September anyway because of the conditions that Mr. Carney slapped on them. But once again, why take a few steps into this swamp when you didn't have to? It still remains a mystery to me.
What we spoke earlier in the show to McGill University poli-sci prof Rex Brynan, who said that, well, they aren't conditions. He's not seeing them as conditions in the Carney statement. In other words, all Canada's recognition is conditional on this and that. He says they're aspirational.
What the hell does that mean? Aspirational. I mean, they're hoping that it'll happen.
That's it.
They're hoping it will happen. That's not you really don't want to rivet your foreign policy together with hopes. I'll tell you right now. But once again, when in doubt, keep your mouth shut. Why, or work behind the scenes. Before the Trudeau decade, before Canada's foreign policy became the punchline for a joke, there was a time, and you and I, and a lot of our listeners grew up in those areas, we had a very good reputation because we were perceived as fair dealers, as a middle power that you could rely on to be neutral, to be trustworthy, and that's what led to a lot of the peacekeeping missions as well. Is that we weren't really taking a side. Well, I'm very sorry when it comes to the war in Gaza. Taking a side is taking a side is taking a side. There is no wriggling out of it. So even if they turn around now and say, well, no, these aspirations haven't been met. Guess what? The people who support Palestinian statehood will come down, like a ton of bricks, as will the people who support Israel and say, well, why'd you do this in the first place? So I am stumped as to what the logic to this is, other than trying to appear, how can I put it, politically appropriate, other than to appear, well, look at us, we're siding with Europe rather than the United States. But which is the other thing which I found odd, as I say. Here's Trump turning around saying, I'd rather they didn't, but it's not a deal breaker. So I think he's also aware that this is the kind of thing that doesn't really mix well with business. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But as I say, a very strange move, as far as I'm concerned, by the Carney government yesterday. We'll see where it leads, if anywhere. But in the meantime, I would be very, very hard pressed not to perceive this as an unforced error.
All right, let's talk about another favorite topic on the scene, the political scene here in Quebec, and that is the Parti Québécois. And the latest comments by its leader, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, linking crime to immigration. He says he's quoting community leaders.
Yeah.
When he says that, but I had the same reaction, I think, as you did, James. I really raised my eyebrows because he was drawing a very direct line saying crime is going up in Quebec because we're letting all these people in. These people in quotation
and they're
marks.
not assimilating. I mean, this has been a PQ trope from the get-go. And they saw, I mean, to be fair, they saw how well it worked for the CAQ in the beginning. They got them 2 terms and massive majorities. The big legacy of the CAQ is we live in a jurisdiction where discrimination has been completely legalized, it's been completely normalized. So to turn around and say something as demonstrably stupid and cynical as immigration, you could say, I mean, I'm really wondering where he was a bit young back then, but I'm really wondering what the rationale was for the spike in crime during the criminal biker wars back in the 90s, where everyone was named, Tremblay or Roberge. I don't remember anyone saying there was something in Quebec DNA that made it extremely violent and prone to blow things up. But that's just me. But yeah, and you can tell. The other sort of like sonar ping that I got off of this truly was for him to pipe up like that. I'm wondering how they're doing in Arthabaska. I'm wondering whether their polls are suggesting that they're not quite as neck and neck, say, with the Conservatives as people thought they were, and they need a little, how can I put it, a little populist push to get those numbers up. That's the merest speculation on my part, but once again, I can't see why. In the middle of summer, in the middle of nowhere, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon turns around and says something which, like a lot of other things he says, he knows is disingenuously wrong.
Yeah, well, you and I both don't understand that, but you might be right. It might be electoral. We'll see how it shakes out, because we're counting. How many? We're less than 2 weeks.
It's the 11th.
Yeah,
it's going to be
11th.
It's going to be
Yeah, well, we'll have our answer, I guess. All right. Thanks very much, James Mennie. Talk to you tomorrow.
Demand.